Hello, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that you can watch the podcast live and interact with us and other chatters on twitch.tv/convictedtoast. Enjoy the podcast. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the Mixed Media Podcast. We'll be covering film, anime, television, and gaming. I'm your host, Keegan, and joining me is your co-host, Mr. Mike, Mr. Mikey Nike Rager.
Glad to be here, Keegan. Awesome. Very excited to get this show on the road.
It's been a long time coming after several delays, but we're here.
Yeah. We've had a couple setbacks. Had a
Yeah.
case of death.
Yeah. We definitely had a small case of death on both ends here. I think yours was a bit more severe than mine, though.
Yeah, just a touch more death.
Yep. Anyway, what are we going to be getting into for our first episode?
So today I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of give the audience a chance to get to know who we are and some of the things that we like, some of the things we dislike. So I call this episode Highlights and Disappointments of 2023 so far. And at the end, we're going to get into some stuff that's coming out later in 2023 that we're excited for on the Mixed Media Podcast. And as Keegan said, um, you're going to hear us talk about all kinds of things here. When deciding to do the podcast, we didn't want to just limit it to anime or limit it to television. We wanted to do television, anime, film, and gaming. So you get a little bit of everything from us. And the first thing we wanted to do is go down on a list of 13 things that were highlights of the year. This does not include games. We're going to get the games a little bit later. These can be movies, TV shows, or anime that we have really enjoyed. The only rule, it could come out any year. You know, if it came out in 33 and this is the first time we watched it, it could go on the list. The only rule is that we had to have watched it in 2020.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get into that. I am gonna adjust our audio a little bit. Canadian Syrup in chat says the stream is a little bit quiet. Um, I don't know if it's just on my end or if he's talking like both of our audio, but I'm gonna turn you up specifically just a little bit. Um,
Sounds good.
so give me 1 second here. Remind me to make a second uh, intermission screen for both of us here, but okay, go ahead and say something now.
Um, is that any better?
I think so. Chat, how's that sound? A lot better?
I'm a lot quieter, they
A
say.
lot quieter. Okay. Let me
Just
know
turn
how
me up
that
to
is.
like turn me up to 110.
Okay. It looks like we're both hitting like the same peaks on my OBS here now.
Hold on, I'll turn up the audio.
A little more. Let me know. Just add more.
Welcome to the stream, by the way, Canadian Syrup.
Yeah,
First
welcome
time
in.
chatter. Welcome.
We'll go there. How's that sound, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, try that. We'll try that, and then if that doesn't work, we go to 80.
Okay. All right, hopefully that's good.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
He handsome.
So Keegan, do you wanna get things started with the top of your list, number 13?
Number 13. So you actually have one more than I do because I struggle to find a 13th.
Oh,
So
my
we're gonna
bad.
start with 12. My
Okay.
first one is Tenet.
Tenet. Oh man, Tenet. Great pick. I've got a Chris Nolan film on my list, but it is not Tenet. So tell us a little bit about Tenet, Keegan.
So Tenet is a film that came out in theaters in like what, late 2020. That was was gonna be the rise to bring people back into the theaters. Um, Ended up not doing so well because like at that point people were just putting movies on streaming services all the time. But I ended up watching it once in like 2022 and then recently again just a couple months back. But it's like a sci-fi like drama thriller, and it's, I don't know, there's so much about the movie that I just love, especially like the concepts, and the acting is phenomenal as well.
Honestly, Tenet holds such a special place in my heart because I go to the movies constantly, and when I went in 2020, the last movie I saw was right before the pandemic. I think it was, I can't remember what it was, but then there was that long drought of March till August where nothing was really coming out. Um, Black Widow came out kind of, not really. I mean, nothing was really coming out. Everything was getting delayed. Oh no, Black Widow's 2021. Everything was getting delayed, and I remember Tenet came out in August, and I bought tickets for it opening night. I was a little nervous because it was still in the pandemic and we weren't quite sure what was going on, and there was like 4 people there. But it was still great to be back in a theater again.
Right.
That was the highlight.
There's no like other experience like being in a movie theater. Like there's a
No,
difference
there really
between
is.
me watching a movie at home and me watching a movie in the theater because it's a different atmosphere, different aesthetic, vibe, everything.
No, I completely agree with you. My number 13 is Rear Window, which is an Alfred Hitchcock movie. It's got Jimmy Stewart in it, and basically, I put that movie on the list because there's nothing else quite like it. How much do you know about Rear Window, Mr.
I don't
Keegan?
know anything. This is the first I've heard of it.
First, you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's basically Jimmy Stewart, and he's in some kind of accident, and both of his legs are completely disabled. He can't use them, and he's sitting in his apartment, and he's got this camera, and he looks across, and he's pretty confident that he sees one of his neighbors get murdered. So the whole movie, the whole hour and a half, is just this dude laying on his couch, looking out his window with this thing, like seeing what's going on in the neighborhood, and it is so good. And Jimmy Stewart just sells it. There aren't very many directors that could make a movie with a concept like that as suspenseful as Hitchcock can, but it is like one of Hitchcock's best. It is so good. It is so well written, and like I said, Jimmy Stewart just does such a great job.
Right. Yeah, it definitely sounds like a one that I have to catch at some point. So,
Yeah, it's phenomenal. All right, Keegan, you're next. You're number 11.
all right. So I may have gone on a bit of a Christopher Nolan kick here, especially because I was just hyped for Oppenheimer, which I still haven't gotten to see yet. But Inception is number 11.
I've never seen Inception.
Really? Okay.
I've never seen
Uh,
Inception.
Oddly enough, it's easier to understand than Tenet somehow, but it's about like going into people's dreams to like basically make them think that they incepted an idea. They're the first person to have come up with that concept and that idea in a dream. And then like they're basically people like deep diving into people's dreams and influencing like the world basically.
I haven't seen Inception, but I've seen the South Park parody of
Okay.
Inception. So I have kind of a. I'm not sure who joined, but could you
That
please?
that'd be
Okay,
Dylan.
okay, thank you. Um, I'm not sure who quite um how close the South Park special is to the actual movie, but it's pretty funny. But I really do need to see Inception, that one, and Interstellar. I
Yeah.
haven't seen either of those by him. My number 12 is Christopher Nolan. So we're following your Christopher Nolan theme. It is Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer was fucking incredible. It should be higher on the list. It's my bad. I didn't organize these yet. I should have done that. Mine are just kind of in any order, just things I really liked. But Oppenheimer has been the best thing I've seen in theaters this year and maybe last year. The Batman kind of edges it out just a little bit, but Oppenheimer is, for those of you who are completely out of the loop, it is about J. Robert Oppenheimer, who helped to develop the nuclear bomb. And it is just incredible. I've never seen a movie where it's just 3 hours of people in rooms talking. That is the most, it's so exciting. Christopher Nolan, the music, the dialogue, Robert Downey and Cillian Murphy's performances are both just amazing. Oppenheimer, easily one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah. I've been hearing so much about it that I just need to get to a theater and see it myself. So,
You definitely should. It is incredible. See it on the biggest screen you can.
right. All right. So, going into number 10 for me, we have Nobody, which last we spoke you haven't seen it yet.
Haven't seen it yet.
Okay. So Nobody takes on a lot of the same aspects as like John Wick, but it's a lot more. There's a lot more comedy to it. It's not as like taken seriously as John Wick is. Um, it's like just really well done action. Bob Odenkirk plays a fantastic like leading role for that, as he always does though. Um, but well shot action, a fun story, like funny, like comedy, like thrown in the mix as well. It's just all around good.
I really need to check it out. I've been really behind on the action stuff. This past year, not 2023, but 2022 was the first time I saw any of the John Wick movies. I saw 1, 2, and 3 in one sitting. I'd never seen them before, and I saw 4 when it came out this year. It's one of my honorable mentions. But I really need to see Nobody because I fucking love Bob Odenkirk. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know why I haven't seen
Right?
it yet because I absolutely love Bob Odenkirk, and getting to see him kick ass would be like one of the best things on earth. So I'm not really sure what I'm doing with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Honestly, it's not even that long of a movie, so you could definitely like pop that out in like an afternoon if you wanted.
yeah, I definitely could. Um, my number 11 is a sleeper hit of the 70s that Keegan has had the pleasure of watching with me. I have seen it 3 times now. It is Eraserhead, David Lynch's first film, first feature film. I can't describe this movie to you. The best way I could describe it is you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you have the weirdest fucking dream of your life, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, "What did I even just dream about?" You can barely remember it. That's Eraserhead. Um, I think David Lynch is second to none when it comes to capturing dream, like the feeling of being in a dream on film. Nothing quite comes close like David Lynch.
Right.
Twin Peaks, his work is just excellent, and Eraserhead is absolutely it's so weird. And if you watch it, you're either going to love it or you will hate it.
Yeah. I remember I did watch that one with you for the first time, and it was just it's such a what's the word I'm looking for? It almost doesn't feel real. Like you're just experiencing something so out of this world that it just doesn't make
It's
sense.
very surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very surreal, and it just kind of the movie just kind of takes you, and you're just kind of watching this stuff. And if you're watching this and you want to watch Eraserhead, the best way to do it is to turn it on at like 2 o'clock in the morning. You will hate yourself the next day, but that viewing experience of Eraserhead, especially if you get a little bored, you start to drift off, and then you start, did I dream that or was it in the movie? That is the best way
Right.
to watch Eraserhead.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies. It's like there's definitely a time and a place that you should put it on, and it's 2 a.m. Especially like a night where you're just kind of having trouble sleeping. You just don't want to sleep anymore. Just put on Eraserhead.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Um, are you on number 9?
Yes, I am on number 9. I believe this is one that's on both of our lists. It is Banshees of Inisherin.
Yes, yes, I have that as number 1. That is one that I instinctively put on number 1. You go ahead and talk about it
Okay.
first.
So going into it, I've only seen it once. You've seen it like upwards of 8 times now, somewhere around there,
Yeah,
probably
6. I've seen it 6
six
times
times.
this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it 6
Uh,
times.
so going into it and like being told, yeah, this is a comedy, you don't like expect that at all. Like there are moments that are it's just so bizarre, but you can't help but laugh at it. Um, and it's such a simple concept too. Like the whole story kicks off because um the leading character goes and he's like, I'm gonna, invite my friend to the pub, and he just isn't like coming out of his house or whatever, and he's like, okay, I'll just go order for him. Shows up and he's like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. It's just that's where we go, and it's such a wild ride for such a simple start.
I completely agree. So when I'm going to talk about the first time I watched The Banshees of Inisherin, which was 5 days before 2023, but I've seen it 5 more times since. It was right after Christmas. I believe I saw it the 26th or 27th of December, and award season was around the clock, and I was like on the Everything Everywhere All at Once train. I was like, yeah, this has got best picture. There's no doubt in my mind. And a lot of people, including this YouTuber I really like, he was like, man, Banshees is like it's crazy. Like it's my vote for best picture. I was like, Banshees of Inisherin, and I saw Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson were in it. and I saw it was on HBO Max. So I was like, "Ah, I'll give it a try. What the hell?" And I watched it, and it was absolutely one of the best releases of last year. It's one of the best things I've still seen this year. Every time I watch it, it doesn't just get funnier, it gets better. The characters become more relatable. The story becomes more relatable. You start to see yourself more in them. Like Keegan said, it's a simple concept. It's something that a lot of people can relate to. It's something that, this idea of, we have all these social norms where, you're friends with somebody and then, well, how do you cut them off without a fight, without a big altercation? Because he doesn't want that. He even helps him at several points in the movie when he's already decided, like, hey, um, I don't really want to be friends with you anymore. He still helps him out. So it's this thing where he doesn't hate him, but he just doesn't want to be friends with him anymore. And the events that transpire from this very simple concept is just it's amazing, and the setting for this movie is perfect. It is a movie that shouldn't
It's
work
also
at
very
all.
beautiful. Like the
Yes,
shoot,
yes.
like the locations and everything, just they look great.
Oh my god, yes. It and the soundtrack, everything just works so well, and the movie is carried by its 2 lead performers. There's a few side characters that have some really good stuff in there too, but the dynamic between Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson is great, and it makes sense, because this isn't the first time that they worked with Martin McDonagh. They worked with him in Bruges, which was another movie that heavily relied on their chemistry together. In Bruges is a little bit different. I watched that for the first time this year as well, and it's a little bit different in their hitmen, and it's more modern, things like that. But the chemistry that these two men have together just works so well, and it just elevates Banshees of Inisherin to one of the best films of last year. It is just so beautiful, and every aspect of it is just perfectly well crafted.
You're right.
It is
Sam's in
incredible.
chat. She said the location of that movie just adds so much to the melancholy humor of it all.
It really does because it's like in the movie they're talking and they're you know they're like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, you don't want to be friends with him. There's like 30 people here. Like, look around you. We're
Right.
surrounded by water. We're in the middle of nowhere. The Irish Civil War is going on, and I love the parallels that the movie draws between the Irish Civil War and them, where it's like, I don't know what they're fighting about. I don't care. Like,
Right.
it's meaningless to me. Which is great because that's at the end of the day, that's really what they're fighting about is nothing. It's this idea of this one man who just wants one thing and this other man who is just oblivious to that. It works perfectly. Um, that was you picked that one up,
Yeah.
and then it's on both. Okay. So my number 10, this one is also one that me and Keegan both share on our lists, I believe, is JoJo Part 3.
Yes.
This is
For
the
the
only
for
anime.
the anime lovers and JoJo fans.
Yes, this is for all the anime lovers. If you're listening, we watched JoJo Part 3, not together, separately, but we both watched JoJo Part 3 this year, and wow, is it great, especially the second half. I mean, it really kicks up a notch. The first half of Part 3, I was like, man, this isn't as good as Part 2. It's dragging a little bit, but once the second half kicks in and they're in Egypt, it just does not stop. I mean,
Yeah.
it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I love a lot of the humor, a lot of the characters, the action's really well done. Um, I don't know if you watched it dubbed or subbed. I watched it subbed, so you get to have the funny comedy moments of uh old man Joseph.
Oh my god, yeah, I've got a sticker on my fridge over here. It's him yelling, "Oh my god!" Yeah, I watched it subbed. Especially just, I mean, the, them yelling in English is like one of the funniest fucking
Yeah,
things
it,
I've
it
ever heard
adds
in my
so
life.
much to the show because not like there are other anime that do it, but JoJo is like synonymous with the with like broken English.
Yeah, it's Iraqi's obsession with American culture, like naming all of these characters after, famous musicians or, just the most ridiculous things.
Yeah,
Oingo and his brother Boingo, shit like that. It's just he loves American culture. And it's really it's really refreshing to see that from a different perspective, because usually it's like an American-made thing that like loves another culture, and usually it's like, whoa,
Right.
like you know what I mean? Like they try to incorporate like an element of Japanese culture or an element of Swedish culture, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, they're trying a little too hard. But JoJo doesn't feel like it's trying too hard. It feels like it's like
It's like
perfectly
nodding
incorporated.
to what it's like referencing. It's not like it's not full on just, hey, this is that thing I'm referencing. It's like if you know, you know, kind of.
Yep, exactly. 100% I agree with you. I love JoJo Part 3. That is why it is on both of our lists. It
Right.
was it was
And
excellent.
it's why it's also on pretty much every JoJo's fans list as being the best, and why part three is the most known. So,
Yeah, I agree completely. All right, Keegan, you are up next.
all right. So I'm on number 8. I have Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
And that is my number 2. It's not that high, but yeah, it's on my list. You go ahead and shoot first.
Okay. So it's just it literally starts out and you have no idea what you're getting into for your first viewing. My second viewing is what I'm talking about here, but going in a second time and understanding a little bit more of what you're getting into, it is just so it's so wild but so fun. Like there's so much going on that you'll just be scratching your head on like your first viewing, but the second viewing is like, okay, I'm starting to kind of get it now. Like there were several people, like I'm pretty sure you told me like your first time watching the movie, you're like, what did I even watch?
I was just about to say that. Yeah, Drake, who I used, was a coworker with me at my work. He was like, "Yeah, this is my favorite movie." I was like, "Oh, I'll give it a shot," and I watched it, and I was like, "What the fuck is this piece of shit?" Like, I didn't get it at all, and it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's literally like trying acid. You try it the first time, and you're like, "Oh, that's awful. Let me try it again," and then you you try it a second time, and you watch it and you're like, "Okay, okay, I'm getting it." And I've seen it now in the last 2 years probably 11 or 12 times. It is such a phenomenal movie, and it adapts the book so well. It I it's hard to explain the movie, but you ever wanted to see what it's like to be on drugs without being on drugs? That's the movie for you. It
Right.
is beyond
Plus
it is
the
so good.
acting really helps that movie so much. Like having Johnny Depp, who's such a physical actor in your lead role, pretending to be somebody that's just high out of their mind, like he just hits it out of the park.
It took me a little bit to know if I was sure on this, but it's my favorite Robert, Jesus. It's my favorite Johnny Depp performance, and it's my favorite Benicio del Toro performance as well.
Right.
Him as the Samoan lawyer is so good. And Tobey Maguire's like fucking 5 minutes he has in the beginning, like talk about being hit in the face. Like it's
Yeah,
you know, it
especially like because that movie came out just a couple years before the first Spider-Man movie came
yeah,
out.
it came out in '98,
Yeah, so it
so
was
three
about 4
years.
years, or yeah,
Yeah,
3 years, 3 years.
3 or 4, one of the two.
It was
But
2002, so
yeah, so 4 years.
4 years.
It's like being splashed in the face with cold water because his look in the movie, he's like blonde and his hair's real thin, and he just
Yeah, it's like down
he
to like it's down behind his back a little bit. Just very
yeah.
strange.
It is very strange, but I mean, it fits with the tone of the movie. The movie is very strange. The man that the movie is based on is very strange himself. I
Yeah.
mean, have I ever told you? And we're only 24 minutes in, so this is cool for the podcast. Have I ever read you his daily routine?
No.
Oh my God, I'm gonna do it real quick. He was in an interview and they asked him his daily routine. This is 100% what he did every day. 3 p.m. wake up. 3:05 he would drink Chivas Regal with the morning papers and smoke Dunhill. So that's like a type of whiskey.
Okay.
3:45 cocaine. 3:50 another glass of whiskey. 4:05 first cup of coffee. Would smoke another cigarette. 4:15 more cocaine. 4:16 a glass of orange juice, another cigarette. 4:30 cocaine. 4:54 cocaine. 5:05 cocaine. 5:11 coffee, another cigarette. 5:30 more ice and another glass of whiskey. 5:45 cocaine. 6 o'clock, grass to take the edge off the day.
Oh my
Here's the big
god.
one. 7:05, Woody Creek Tavern for lunch. Heineken, 2 margaritas, coleslaw, a taco salad, a double order of fried onion rings, carrot cake, ice cream, a bean fritter, another cigarette, another Heineken, cocaine, and for the ride home, a snow cone, which is a glass of shredded ice, which is poured over 3 or 4 shots of whiskey.
Oh
Nine
my
o'clock,
god.
starts snorting cocaine seriously. 10 o'clock, drops acid. 11 o'clock, Chartreuse, which is like a French liqueur. Cocaine, more grass. 11:30, cocaine. 12 o'clock, midnight. Hunter S. Thompson is ready to write.
Mm.
Between 12:05 a.m. and 6 a.m. when he's writing, he has chartreuse, cocaine, grass, more cigarettes, coffee, Heineken, clove cigarettes, grapefruit, more cigarettes, orange juice, gin, and continuous pornographic movies while he's writing. Then he has a hot tub champagne, Dove bars, a fettuccine alfredo. He takes a Halican, and then he goes to bed at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my god.
Yep.
That is insane. Like that is
The,
beyond crossfaded. That is
the wildest life of anybody ever, I swear to God.
yeah, that is insane to me. That blows my mind.
Yeah, he was an interesting individual. Did you know that they adapted Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas once before that?
No, I didn't.
It's terrible. It's got Bill Murray in it.
Huh.
Um, it came out in, let me get the name of the movie for the podcast. Where it's a movie called Where the Buffalo Roam.
Okay.
It has a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, for the critic score, and the audience score is a little bit higher. But I've heard it's awful, and I've heard Hunter S. Thompson absolutely hates it.
Right.
But yeah, it came out in the '80s with Bill Murray.
Hmm.
Um, so my number 9 is Come and See. Um, Come and See, I'm not going to go into too much detail on. Come and See is a Russian film that came out post World War II, and it is the most brutal and realistic depiction of war I've ever seen. And I say that there are hardly any battles in the movie that you see. I don't even, maybe you see one. It's set from the Russian perspective, towards the end of World War II, and you follow this German kid whose father is killed, and he decides at age 11 to take up a rifle and march with a battalion of Russian soldiers, and you just get to see the effects of war and the way it breaks this 11-year-old kid's mind over the course of the movie. It is one of the most gritty, depressing, and realistic war films I've ever seen. It is genuinely hard to watch. There are moments in it where I was just left completely speechless. And the best part about it is he got like he didn't get actors for it, like big Russian actors. He wanted them to look like people that would have actually been in the war.
Hmm.
So he got people that, off the street, things like that. It was banned in Russia for several years because it didn't paint either side as the good guys because the Russians did bad things during World War II as well.
Right.
And it was very controversial because it was released in '85 during the Cold War, and the Russians found that to be, a little against their image that they wanted to paint for the public, but
Right.
it is absolutely incredible. It is such a great war film.
Right. I definitely want to see that one because I do love movies that like kind of they look at like war and historical battles and stuff like that from like a different perspective rather than just straight war for war's sake.
Yeah.
So that one's definitely gonna have to go on my list. I have to catch that one.
It is so good. There's one of the most realistic scenes of bombs being dropped when the kid's going across this field, and the sound of the movie just goes completely high pitched and then nothing because it takes you can't hear
Yeah.
anything, like it just blows your ears out, and like there's like a good 5-6 minutes of the movie where the kid's moving around and it's just complete and total silence.
Oh wow.
Very good.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's very intense. So what do you got for your
This would be my
uh
number 7.
okay.
It is The Lighthouse.
Very good. This isn't on my list because I haven't seen it this year, but The Lighthouse is very good.
Okay. So I'll just go into a little bit. It's inspired by Greek horror, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Proteus and Prometheus.
That's right. So it's Greek horror inspired, and it's such a simple concept for a movie where it's just two men show up to attend a lighthouse. They have their time, which is supposed to be what, 3 weeks or something like that, something like those lines.
Well, you—that's the beauty of the movie
Right.
is you
Yeah,
don't really know.
you
You
don't really
can't.
know how long it
You,
is,
you
because at
could
some
take their
point,
word for it,
right.
but you don't know.
Yeah, they kind of like they like say, yeah, the boat's gonna come for us, and then it just never shows up. And after that moment, weird stuff's been happening, but after that moment, it just starts to go out the window, and you're just along for this ride of like, what is even happening? Who's sane here? Who's insane? What's going on?
It's bad luck to kill a seabird.
Exactly.
It is so good, and the fact that both of the characters are unreliable narrators is so good. I
Right.
One of
It's
my favorite.
something that I don't think any other movie has ever done quite the same.
Yeah, you don't know there's nobody to trust. There's literally nobody to trust because either Willem Dafoe's insane, Robert Pattinson's insane, or they're both fucking insane.
Right.
At least one of them is insane.
It's drawn from the perspective as well, where you're like at one point it's like, oh, Robert Pattinson's sane, and then to the next point it's like, ah, Willem Dafoe's sane. Like, no, no one's insane, no one's sane. You don't know, we don't know.
I think they do a really good job as well of capturing like the old timey language. I love
Right.
when he's like reading his log. He's like, You've committed several acts of habitual self abuse in this shed."
Yep.
Habitual self abuse. I'm like, oh, he means masturbation. That's great.
Yeah.
It's so good. My favorite line in the movie that really cements the unreliable narrator thing is when Willem Dafoe's like, "How long has it been? 2 weeks? 2 days? Help me to recollect." Like that is so good,
Yeah.
and the monologues are just
It also
man.
has one of my favorite pieces of like, if you just took a screenshot from this film, it is easily one of my favorite things I've ever seen. And it's the scene when he's like, the whole weird phase is going on, but you see Willem Dafoe standing over Robert Pattinson with the light coming out of his like eyes and mouth.
Oh, where he's in like the Greek
Yeah,
position
he's in
over
like a
him.
Greek like statue pose, standing
Yes,
over him.
yes, that is the best piece of evidence that like kind of points it towards that Proteus and
Yeah.
Prometheus. Um, my number 8 is American Beauty, and this one is one I'm very excited to talk about. I watched it for the first time less than a month ago, and it's still very fresh in my mind. Um, I watched American Beauty, and I was very nervous going into it. Do you know anything about American Beauty?
Uh, I know about some rose petals.
Yes,
Kevin
okay.
Spacey is in there.
Yes. So the only thing I knew about American Beauty is the rose petals and Kevin Spacey wants this 18-year-old girl and he's married. That's all I knew.
Right.
And I was like a little nervous to go into it. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Right. It's
And I
it's definitely a concept that like if you state that you're just like, ah, that sounds strange.
Yes, and I after watching it, I hate that that's what the movie's known for because it's so much more than that. It is like I watched it. I had like an episode after I finished it. I was like, I finished the movie. I was like, this is art. I was like, this is true art. I was like, this makes me want to write. I want to write for film. I was like, this is so good. And Kevin Spacey's performance, he encapsulates all of the aspects of a midlife crisis perfectly. I mean, he does so freaking well in this movie. It's crazy. Everybody's at the top of their game, and I didn't know this until later. It's directed by the guy that did 1917,
Oh, really?
which is yeah,
Another movie that's on the list I own, haven't watched yet, so there's that.
um,
But I need to get there.
yeah. It's just it's so hard to put American Beauty into words. It really is just a beautiful, beautiful movie. And Kevin Spacey, like, you kind of, like, feel for him for a lot of it because he really, like you begin to understand like his wants and like his life and the situation he's in. And man, it hurts. It hurts so bad to watch it. Like you're watching the movie and you're like, "Oh my god." Like it's physical pain. Especially the last 30 minutes, I like couldn't breathe. It was so stressful. And he sells every aspect of it. And one of my favorite lines in the movie is they're sitting there and they're having dinner, him and his family, and he keeps asking for the asparagus, and he picks it up, and he's like in the middle of a sentence, and his wife is interrupting him. His wife and daughter in the movie kind of disrespect him, don't really like him,
Yeah.
and she like interrupts him, and he like went and got the asparagus, and he just like throws it into the wall, and he's just like, "Don't interrupt me again." And he sits down, and they have like dinner music playing, and he's like, and also, and he's like cutting his baked potato. He's like, also, quite frankly, I'm a little tired of this Lawrence Welk shit that you've been playing, and I don't think I'm alone here. And he just keeps eating. It's so good.
Oh wow.
Such a great movie.
Yeah, it's one that like I've heard about, but I've never like seen or I've never heard anybody talk about it in like detail. So
I I think it won Best Picture, but I know it was nominated. Yes, it did. Won Best Director, Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Cinematography, and Best Original Screenplay.
oh wow. That's
Took
that's a
5
lot of
Oscars home.
awards and to be one that I don't really hear about is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's so good. It's such a great film.
Right.
All right, Keegan, we're up. What is this? Your number 6?
So six I had JoJo's Part 3 as well, so we're gonna go to my number five, which is the Batman.
I have the Batman on my number 5.
All right.
We have it the same spot.
We
Yeah,
tied up on the Batman. Look at that.
yeah, we did. Man, you could go first. This
Okay.
is this is a good one.
So, I'll just preface this by saying that Batman is one of my all-time like favorite like superheroes, especially when he's in like his early phase before a lot of like his super like villains get introduced to it, like when he's facing like mafia and like serial killers and stuff like that. And this movie does that perfectly by taking us into a point where uh we're looking at this from a young Bruce Wayne's perspective, and he isn't really fighting like any crazy supervillains. It's just hunting down a serial killer. Super well done, and I absolutely love a lot of the shots and stuff that they take. The music direction, the sound design, everything is done so well, and it's easily one of my favorite superhero movies to date now.
It is for me too. Detective Batman always beats Action Batman.
Yeah.
Detective Batman is so good, relying on his brain and the gadgets he has rather than his brawn. And he does use his brawn in the movie, to be fair. But
Yeah, I mean,
it's
especially
so
like the
much.
first time that we see him, it's him beating dudes up in a alleyway,
Yep.
or it was like a subway station or something like that.
Yep. And I may get shot dead in the street for this, but it's the best Batman movie. It's the best on-screen Batman that we've had in live action, and it's the best Jim Gordon. The only
Yeah,
other Jim Gordon we've had is Gary Oldman, and he was okay. There was one in Michael Keaton's, but who the hell was that? Like he was barely there. He barely did
yeah,
anything. This Jim Gordon feels like one that is like all the other cops aren't really there, but Jim Gordon's like, all right, man, we got this. Like he's on his side, and he's so like he's I don't want to say he's the comedic relief, but he has some of the best like
he has a
beats
few
to like
moments where
breathe.
there's a bit of comedic relief, but
Yeah, you could have pulled that punch, man. Like that's
yeah,
so good. I did. Like that's so good, and the thumb drive and everything. It's just one of my
yeah,
favorite on-screen Batman villains too. Paul Dano is the Riddler. He's scary, he's creepy,
yeah,
he's intelligent,
and it
he
kind
is
of
a threat.
it semi adapts like the Batman Hush comic, as well, like having him be less solve riddles, like that are just kind of feel like mundane and don't really do anything. Um, but like they're riddles that are leading into actual like crimes.
I completely agree, and I'm so glad they went that direction instead of just doing Hush because I don't like the Hush story. I don't like Thomas Elliot. I don't like that whole thing, but I love absolutely love the way they pose Riddler into that he's, you know, he's gunning for the rich because he was this his motivations are so good. And Colin Farrell as the Penguin, come
Yeah,
on, like, he is so good. The accent, the makeup design, Colin Farrell, man, 2 bangers in 2022 he
yeah,
released. He is so fucking good and so talented. It's just I'm so excited for the sequel. I know they announced the villain is Clayface. Very excited to see an on-screen Clayface. I don't want them to go realistic. I want them to go full comic, show a weird Clayface. The world can handle it.
right. Yeah,
It's
I
it
hope
would
so.
be
I hope they
great.
can find a way to pull that off and keep it like how it felt kind of grounded for this one.
Um, all of the rest of mine, I'm looking at my list for the highlights, and they're all kind of depressing. So I feel kind of bad now because like you got like uplifting ones, like we got the Batman. And you were like, oh yeah, this was good, and then I'm looking at mine. I'm like, Clemency was depressing. Eraserhead, it's not exciting.
Yeah,
American Beauty is depressing. My next one is probably the most depressing one I have on this list. The one I saw most recently, The Seventh Seal. Wow. Um, this movie, the entire purpose of this movie is to remind you that you are going to die. It is so good. The whole point of this movie is to tell you you're going to die. There's no avoiding it. Everybody dies.
right,
You can't cheat death. The movie is about this knight named Antonius Block, and he just came back from the Crusades. He comes to this beach, and Death is there to greet him. And he challenges Death to a game of chess for his life. And Death agrees because he's bored. Bless you. No, you're good. And Antonius Block's reasons for winning are so good. The reasons that he wants to go on living even for a little bit longer is so that he could find out if there really is a God and he can do one last act of goodness as a soldier. And it is so good. He comes across all of these different characters. He comes across a woman accused of being a witch. He comes across this group of actors that are traveling performers. It is such a beautiful, beautiful film, and it's shot so well. And it's so crazy to me that a Swedish film from 1957 that takes place in the Middle Ages is one of the most relatable movies I've ever seen. But it's just because we're all human and we can all relate to the idea of we're all going to die, and we can all relate to that idea of wanting a little bit more time. And the dialogue in this movie is so profound for 1957. I mean, having characters in your film that are questioning the existence of God in 1957 is insane.
right.
Having that in your movie and having that be like a central plot point that your characters are feeling that way is it's so powerful, and it immediately skyrocketed in my top 20 when I watched it. It was such a great film. Igmar Bergman as the director did such a great job with it.
Right.
It was incredible.
Yeah, that does sound like a depressing film to be honest, but
It is, but he mixes in comedy too. Like there's some like funny moments, like
yeah,
even with Death, like there's a part in the movie where he's like giving his confession, and the priest is Death. Like he snuck around the pew, and he's in the pew, and he's like talking to him in the thing, and he's like, "So how you gonna beat Death, huh?" And he like tells him a move that he's got planned, and then he like turns and looks at him. He's like, "I got you," and he's like, "Oh come on, like you're already Death. You're cheating again."
right.
But Death in the movie is so good because he's portrayed as just an everyday guy. He's just doing a job.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Is there a God?" And he's like, "Fuck if I know. I'm just doing my job."
right.
Very good.
I
Very
feel like
good.
we both kind of put some depressing stuff towards the top of our list. So,
Uh-oh. What do you
uh,
got next?
Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
Okay, I haven't seen it,
You
so this
haven't
is all
seen it
you,
yet.
baby.
Okay. So, I'm gonna try my best not to spoil anything because it's like you can finish the whole show. You can start it and finish it in like less than 3 hours.
Okay.
Like one sitting, you can bust it out. So that's what I recommend you do. But it starts off and we literally follow Well, it starts out with one of the most gruesome scenes I've seen in anime, which is what is a cyber psycho just tearing through cops in Night City, and then we like meet up with our main protagonist straight after this, who was basically witnessing this through what they call brain dances, where you literally experience somebody's like feelings and emotions in that moment, and he literally just watched this cyber psycho die through his own eyes and essentially experiences death, which is just blows my mind to even think about that in like that kind of perspective. But it leads into this whole super depressing story about how basically nobody wins in Night City. You end up in a situation, the city always wins. That's pretty much the whole approach to the show.
I just want to say it's amazing that a game like Cyberpunk that released, the way it did,
Yeah.
and it was able to come back from that, and then to have one of the most popular anime series of the last 2 years is awesome.
And it
It is
revived the
great for them.
entire game as well. The game like it started kind of in like regular updates that tried to get it back into a good state, and they timed the release of the anime with their big update that fixed so much of it. It was literally shock paddles to the game. It brought it back.
And it's amazing how, doing something like that. I'm sure that, there are a lot of games that do that where they like revitalize, or a movie that revitalizes a game. I'm sure, some of the Arkham games too have revitalized
Oh
people's
yeah, like
love for that.
I remember right after the Batman came out, seeing so many people start uploading like short clips on like of like the Arkham games on YouTube. Like it'd always be like Arkham Knight 2 because that one has like the best gameplay to simulate being Batman. So just like like slowly walking through the city streets and enemies just go, "Oh my God, it's the Bat!"
Yep. Man,
So
that's awesome. My number 6 is a I cheated a little bit, but not really.
okay,
It's Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. This is a trilogy called the Before Trilogy. There are three of them. I haven't grown the balls to watch the third one yet. It's very depressing. It is the most realistic romance film I think I've ever seen. Before Sunrise is these two people. Um, they meet on a train and they like form some type of connection, and the whole movie is just them walking through Paris together because he's from America, she's from Sweden, and they're just walking together at night. And they kind of come to this realization that they both have to go their separate ways in the morning. So they agree that this is their night. They know they're not going to let the morning ruin it. And Before Sunset picks up 10 fucking years later, and they're both their own people. And he wrote a book about that night and just, the experience he had. And she goes to see him again, and they start to like reform connection. And I know Before Midnight is going to be tragic because it takes place another 10 years later. And they have kids, I know, in Before Midnight. I don't know very much about it. I haven't. I again, the first one is emotionally devastating. It is such a good movie. It's very rare to see chemistry like that. We are like, man, these people like could really be in
right.
love.
Yeah,
And
that sounds
Richard
like a
Link,
beautiful movie to be honest. Like,
it is the whole trilogy is just so well made. And Richard Linklater, he's insane. He is literally insane. He's the most patient man on earth because he released Before Sunrise in 1995. He released Before Sunset in 2004, and he released Before Midnight in 2013. He released them 10 years apart for all three of them. Exactly. And he has the same characters, the same couple, and you actually get to see them age. And he does that with a lot. Like, have you ever heard of the movie Boyhood?
no, I don't think I have.
He did it, and it's a movie. It's not like a documentary or anything like that. He got all of these actors together, and every year they would shoot 2 or 3 scenes.
Oh
And it
wow.
takes place over 12 years of you seeing this kid grow up with his family. So you actually see all of the characters get older, and they don't use like body, somebody else or CGI. It actually the story just unfolds and you watch it
That
as
is
the years go
crazy.
on.
That's so much dedication to a film.
Yeah, and Ethan Hawke is in all three of the before movies. He is the man in them, and he's also in Boyhood. Sloppy Butcher said, "Touched my soul all the way down to my jimmies." I don't know if he's talking about the before trilogy or if he's talking about Boyhood, but either way,
I think
I could see
maybe
it.
both. We'll see.
See both. All right, Keegan, what is up for next for you? I've got two left.
All right, I also have two left. So, for me, number two is Better Call Saul. Had to bring it up. Had to put it on there. Uh, and let me preface this by saying that I love Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul both, but it is crazy to me that Better Call Saul could beat Breaking Bad in the end. Like I was sitting there the entire time, like I like this a lot. I really like this a lot, and then I finally got to the end, and I was like, it it's better. Like they're both
It,
fantastic. They're both right here, but Better Call Saul just takes it just a little bit.
I, I could talk for an hour about Better Call Saul, but it's just to me, it's so much better than Breaking Bad, just because Breaking Bad sets up the world a little bit for you.
Yeah,
Like the Salamancas are over here. You know some aspects. Better Call Saul explodes the world. Like you see all this stuff, and then they're doing this thing, and you're like, "Oh, that becomes this,"
yep,
and then you're watching it, and it's not like they throw in a cameo for you to be like like a Marvel movie throws
yeah,
in a cameo, and you're like, "Oh my god!" Like whenever they have characters there, it makes total sense for them to be there at this. Like it makes sense for them to appear. It makes sense that they're there.
right.
And that's what makes Better Call Saul so good. And
Right.
the fact that
It's
they
it's literally an origin story for every like major side character that appears in Breaking Bad.
exactly, and it's crazy too because they expand on Mike so much. Did you know Mike wasn't even supposed to be in Breaking Bad?
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be just Saul that shows up. They just they created a character because they saw Jonathan Banks and they were like, I can't remember what show that he did before, but Vince Gilligan and what's his name?
Peter Gould.
Peter Gold. Yeah, they both were like huge fans of the show, and they're like, we can get him. Let's do that.
Yeah, and then he instantly became like one of the most loved characters in both shows, and he gets like some of the most interesting stuff in both, especially in Better Call Saul.
Yeah,
He gets so much interesting character development. It's crazy. And the fact that they made it last as long, it really is one of the best prequels ever
right.
made.
Even the a huge thing. I'm not going to go into any spoilers, but the way that they keep coming back to post Breaking Bad in the show to start out the seasons and finally see how it all ends
The
at
payoff.
in the final season is just it's so well done.
It's crazy to me because you think watching that, you're like, man, they've had to have had this plan for like 10 years, and they fucking didn't. They wrote Breaking Bad season by season. Like
Yeah,
they had plans to kill off like Walt Jr. and Jesse in season 1 and 2, and they didn't in season 1 and 2, and then you're like, man, they wrote this season by season and
yeah,
made it up as they went along. They literally just wrote in Saul, they wrote in Mike. They're like, yeah, these would be cool characters. It's just that is the talent of a good writer, is just
yeah.
being able to adapt and just come up with these
Especially like
concepts.
I feel like the teamwork between Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould is just it's top notch because I feel like they both have like such similar ideas that they can just really pull together something from what seems like nothing.
I completely agree. Breaking Bad is a great starting base for good writers. Better Call Saul is what happens when those good writers are experienced.
Right.
That's the best way I put it.
Yeah,
Um,
to be like especially in the context of how like the show came to be for Better Call Saul was like AMC basically like we want three spin-offs and Vince Gilligan said I'll give you one spin-off that does all three of those.
yep. Yep, that's the best part too, because AMC is known for like cash grabbing things. You know, The Walking Dead, they've got like 100
Like five
spin-outs, all
split
these.
spin-off shows at this point.
Yep, and Better Call Saul is the only breaking, not counting El Camino.
Yeah.
is the only Breaking Bad spinoff, which is great. It's great. And El Camino just feels like another episode of Breaking Bad, just like an epilogue
Yeah.
to certain things.
Also, if you've
Um,
never done it before, feel free to look up any of the original scripts for a Breaking Bad episode and just read them. And it's almost like you're reading like just a really well written novel.
yep. Oh yeah, I love that too because I have the Blu-ray series of Breaking Bad, and they had Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul sitting down for a special. It was an hour long. You only get on the special edition Blu-ray, and they read the finale together
Yeah.
for the first time.
The big thing
It
with
is
that too is
so
I think
good.
somebody re-uploaded that on YouTube, and I remember watching it, and they're both just kind of sitting there, and they almost have like tears in their eyes reading this because it's like this is the end, you know?
Yeah. We don't talk about the Slipping Jimmy cartoon. We do not talk about the
I
Slipping
don't even know
Jimmy
what that
cartoon.
is, so I'm just gonna assume we're
AMC
not talking about it.
AMC released it on their YouTube. It's like little shorts of Slippin' Jimmy when he was a kid,
Okay.
and it's really bad. It's
So,
really bad. Don't know why they did it.
you probably don't have context for it, but for anybody that's a Letterkenny fan, I'm gonna bring up Little Kenny, and it's like that.
I guess yeah, that's probably what
Little
it's like.
Kenny, you basically it's all it's the three like big characters, and it's just a cartoon where they like talk about like it's like 3 minute long episodes, and they're just mind numbing. They're so bad.
Slippin' Jimmy has a 2.8 on IMDb out of 10.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it is. 15% of users like this show.
Oh my god.
It has like none of the writers. It's weird. And the animation is dog shit. It looks like Big Mouth kind of. It's weird.
Huh,
Weird show. Weird. It's just weird in general.
right.
Um, my second to last is Shiba Baby. Shiba Baby was fucking excellent. I went in on a whim with this with Lincoln. I knew nothing about it. Do you know what a Shiva is?
It sounds familiar.
It's a Jewish funeral service, pretty
Okay.
much. So it's this girl played by Rachel Sennett, and she is a sugar baby, and she has this sugar daddy, and she goes to this Shiva, and she's there with her family. It's like I don't know what the family relation is, but she's there for them, and the guy shows up. That's her sugar daddy.
Oh
He was
wow.
also invited to the Shiva with his wife and kid.
Hmm.
And the whole movie, it's only an hour and 17 minutes long. The whole movie takes place in this party, and it runs the length that a party would. So you are with her the entire time, and it's so like the anxiety you feel in the camera, like, and she's like, you know how you're like you see somebody and you like really want to avoid him, and you're like,
Yeah.
camera's just
It's
so
like me
close.
avoiding eye contact with the crackhead at the gas station.
That's exactly what it is. It's an hour and 17 minutes of just that, and it is so good. It is one of my favorite movies I saw this year. It's so good. And Rachel Sennett, I want her to get more roles so bad. She is such a fucking great actress. She was in Bodies, 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 and Shiva Baby. She is absolutely incredible. She's like one of the best up and coming actresses right now. She needs more roles. But Shiva Baby is great. It's on HBO Max. It's literally an hour and 17 minutes. It's very modern. Check it out. It's great.
Okay. Yeah,
Like
it definitely sounds like something that it's if you like the kind of movies that give you anxiety, the ones where you're like on the edge of your seat the entire time and you're just like, "Oh my God." Like you thought cringe humor was bad, you know? But yeah,
exactly.
that definitely that sounds like a very very interesting film.
It is. It's super good. All right, Keegan, your last highlight of the year.
Okay. So last movie highlight of the year. Uh it's no surprise for most people. It's Across the Spider-Verse, which I know that you didn't have much of an appeal for it. I understand like your attachment to animation isn't as deep as a lot of people, so but absolutely absolutely love the movie. It is voice acting, animation, like every single frame feels like it like thousands of man hours went into one frame of the movie. Fantastically written. It's just all around a good movie. I'm not going to go into any story stuff because I know there are people that haven't had the chance to see it yet with it being so recent. So I'm going to leave it pretty short on Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay. I will say the animation is beautiful. I
Yeah.
can agree with that.
It's
The animation.
definitely like seeing a lot of the frames, especially like Into the Spider-Verse did it, but it's like a lot of the moments where you could freeze frame it and you're just like, that's a comic panel. That's a wallpaper for my computer, that kind of thing.
My last highlight is the most what the fuck movie of the year, the most divisive movie of the year for a lot of cinephiles. Ari Aster's Beau is Afraid. Wow, this movie will fucking take you on a trip like you've never been on in your life. It is so hard to describe to people. A rabbi at the theater that I saw it at in Pittsburgh described it best when he called it a Jewish Alice in Wonderland with horror elements. That is exactly what it
Okay.
is. It's so weird. It's just Joaquin Phoenix is this guy named Beau, and he's got to get home. That's the idea. But as he's trying to get there, some of the fucking craziest shit you've ever seen in your life just keeps flying at him from every angle, from this crazed K-pop girl to like the city. It's just everything is so fucking crazy. The movie is not for everybody. When I left the theater, half of the people that saw it hated it, and half the people that saw it absolutely loved it. And that is literally the consensus on like everything. Everything that you like go to look at movie reviews on, it's almost always at an exact like 50% loved it, 50%
Yeah.
hated it. It's crazy that it can do that, but I could see why. The movie is 100% not for everybody, but people that enjoy that will absolutely love it. It is, my God, it is so, so, so good. And Ari Aster is one of the best filmmakers right now. There's two comments in the chat for Beau. That movie was so fucking good. Words don't even do it justice. Anxiety incarnate. And Beau is a masterpiece. Yeah, Beau is Afraid is so good. It's my favorite Joaquin Phoenix performance. It is just such a bizarre mindfuck beginning to end. It is so good. Um, do you want to we've got our honorable mentions. Do you want me to run through my list real quick and then you run through your list of honorable mentions?
So I actually don't have any mentions. If you want to run through those really quick.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
see.
I barely managed to get 12 on my list. So
I see. I will go very quickly.
okay.
Black Klansman, Night and Fog, The Player, Planet Terror, Werewolf by Night, Slither, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, Paths of Glory, Evil Dead Rise, We're All Going to the World's Fair, La La Land, After Sun, Funny Pages, John Wick Chapter 4, Pearl, Django from 1966, Dead Alive, North by Northwest, Infinity Pool, Fantastic Planet, For a Few Dollars More, and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So we've been praising media for about an hour and 5 minutes now.
Yeah.
So it's time to get into some disappointments that we've had this year. Keegan, would you like to go ahead with your first
Okay.
disappointment of this year?
So it's not so much as a disappointment as I kind of wish that the movie just wasn't made because it's a remake. It was already done better with Keanu Reeves. Point Break 2015. It takes such a simple concept of the original Point Break and just goes to 11, but not in a good way.
I have not seen that. I don't think I will.
Yeah, it's not very good. The only cool thing that ever came out of it is for anybody that's a Payday fan, there's a heist that's inspired by something that they do in the movie, and that's as far as it goes.
My first disappointment of this year is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. What a fucking dumpster fire this movie was. Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp are so good. They're so well made. They're funny. They got good action. Paul
Yeah.
Rudd.
It's done so well, like the writing for those first two, especially having Paul Rudd be like he it feels like one of the only Marvel movies I'm okay with the main character being a comedian in.
Yes, I agree. And Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania decides to take out all of the funny, all of the side characters that you love from Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Luis, all of them. The Russian guy that was played by Polka Dot Man.
Yeah.
Gets rid of all of them. Pulls in this sci-fi plot that is literally Star Wars. They literally rip off all of Star Wars. MODOK looks like fucking Mr. Electric. Why is MODOK there? Why is he Yellow Jacket? I'm
I've
gonna get
heard of
angry.
that about the
Yeah,
MODOK being in the show or in the movie.
yeah, he is terrible. He is absolutely. He looks like Mr. Electric. Like that's how bad the
Oh my
CGI is. He
God, that's
looks like
awful.
Mr. Electric.
I feel
Uh,
like they blew their entire like budget on like phase 4 and it just none of the movies like look great. Like a lot of the CGI is starting to fail these days.
and the villain being Kang. He in the movie there's a line that he says to Ant-Man where he's like, "You better let me go. I'm Ant-Man. I'll get the rest of the Avengers." And he's like, "What do you do again? Do you have the hammer? I've killed so many groups of the Avengers, I can't tell them apart anymore."
Right.
Why the fuck are you an Ant-Man villain if you can kill Thor? Like
Right.
what?
Yeah, it's just
Oh
that's
my god.
crazy to me. The MCU as a whole, as of recent, has been pretty disappointing.
I
Um,
completely
let's not
agree.
go too far into it because we are almost an hour and 10 in. So
Yeah, it might go a little bit over, but
yeah.
we got through the big part. What is your second disappointment?
To nobody's surprise, it's Overwatch 2.
Fair.
Uh, because first off, they stopped doing any and all updates on the original Overwatch in like 2018 when they were like, okay, we're gonna do a co-op mode for Overwatch 2. Um, and then like 2022 comes around, they're like, we have nothing to show for what we've done. And they go, okay, here you go. It's Overwatch. I mean, Overwatch 2. That's pretty much what they went with. And then everybody was like, okay, what'd you change? Well, it's 5v5 now. Okay, and
Y-
uh, it's 5v5 now, and now they have the audacity to charge $15 for the co-op mode that we were promised, and it's not even the co-op mode that we wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have put Overwatch 2 on my list, but I was more disappointed by that last year, and then I stopped playing it.
I'm
So
I'm
I
still playing it. I played it on stream today, so
there you go. So the disappointment train keeps a rolling.
yeah.
My second disappointment is another sequel, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
None of us wanted to say it, but it's true.
Please, please leave Harrison Ford alone. Please let him die in peace. Please stop bringing him back for franchises. Blade Runner was okay. You brought him back for fucking Star Wars. You brought him back for Indiana Jones. The man is 80. Let him rest until his final rest. He shouldn't have been in another Indiana Jones movie. The only good part of this movie was the villain, who's played by Mads Mikkelsen. He was excellent. Dial of Destiny, one of the most disappointing films of the year.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
It's
Keegan,
we
what do you got
definitely
next?
have to talk about how none of us wanted it. That's all.
Nope. Oh yeah,
Anyway.
none of us wanted it.
Yeah,
None of us wanted
none
it.
of us wanted to see that one fail.
We're content with the Last Crusade.
Yeah. So a lot of my disappointments come from games because gaming as a whole has been pretty disappointing in the past couple of years. It's Halo Infinite, just the multiplayer. I didn't even play the story to tell you that I'm disappointed with the story, but the multiplayer just it's not very good. The Battle Pass is a cool idea where you can go back and claim Battle Pass stuff from like previous ones. I wish more people did that. That's the only real highlight I can give it.
Yeah, that's very fair. That is very fair. Um, my third disappointment is Clerks 3, yet another sequel. Clerks 1 is one of the best indie films ever made. It's so quotable. Put Kevin Smith on the map. Clerks 2 is alright. Not as good as Clerks 1. Clerks 3, Kevin Smith is just a fucking sellout at this point. Like, Clerks 3 is like He says it's made for the fans, and it is, so he could get more money. There's no passion behind it with Clerks 1, and I hate to
Right.
dog on Kevin Smith because I do like him a lot, but Clerks 3 is just not nearly the height of Clerks 1 and 2.
Right. Yeah, I haven't seen the Clerks movies. I've seen clips from them and they do seem like really like entertaining movies that I do want to watch them. But hearing how like 3 went, it's disappointing.
Yeah, the first one is absolutely incredible. One of the most accurate retail movies
Yeah.
ever.
Like
It's so fun.
I've seen clips from the first one. I'm like this like having a background in retail, it's like
It's
this is another
so accurate.
Tuesday.
Yeah, it's so accurate.
Yeah.
What do you got next for your disappointments?
So my fourth disappointment, uh, it's a shame to put it on here, but it's Dying Light 2. The reason I say it's a disappointment is because I've seen how much like effort and support Techland put into the first Dying Light. To have Dying Light 2 come out and just tell a more disappointing story, have gameplay elements that aren't as well thought out, and like all around it feels like something was just missing, like the heart of Dying Light just wasn't in Dying Light 2, and it's gotten better from what I've heard, but I haven't gone back to play it for myself, so as it sits it's still disappointing for me.
It's fair. I haven't finished the first one yet, so I don't. One day I will.
Yeah.
Uh, my number 4 pick is Glorious. What a fucking piece of shit. No idea why the Rotten Tomatoes score is so high. No idea why so many people talk about this movie. It is a movie that should have been great, should have been good fun. It's a movie about a dude that goes into a bathroom. There's a talking glory hole, and it's J.K. Simmons. He's on the other side, and he's God. It should be amazing, and
Yeah,
it
what you
is.
just described to me sounds like it would be a fucking awesome movie.
It does, and I thought it was. All the reviews were great, and I watched it with my cousin John and with Lincoln, and we all three walked away with the idea of what the fuck did we just watch? It almost has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh my god.
No idea. The audience score is a 56. I agree with the audience score. It's a talking glory hole played by J.K. Simmons. Should have been a lot better than it was.
Yeah, that's just that. It sounds like such a fun idea. How do you
It does.
fail? How do you mess
I
that up?
I have no idea.
Ah,
What do you got for your next disappointment?
so that's the last disappointment I had. I tried to get a fifth on there, but I don't know what it was. But I literally sat there and my mind just went blank.
Okay, I've got two more. I'll
Okay,
just run through them
yeah,
really quick.
run through those real quick.
Number 5 is Murder Mystery 1 and 2. They're Adam Sandler movies on Netflix with Adam Sandler, Jennifer Aniston. They're not funny. They're pieces of shit. Adam Sandler, keep making stuff like Uncut Gems. Number 6 is Europa Europa. And this movie is a disappointment, but it also makes me mad. And here's why. I think it's fair to create I think it's fair to criticize a movie that tackles a serious subject if it's done poorly. Europa Europa is about the Holocaust, and I went into it because I've heard it's great and it covers Holocaust. It has like a 95%, and I watched it and it was an absolute fucking travesty. I hated it. And the thing is, it whenever you what makes me mad about it is whenever you criticize films that tackle important issues, you you seem to paint yourself in this light that you don't agree with the message, which of course I do. Schindler's List is one of the best films ever made. It is so well put together and it covers the Holocaust in such an emotionally impactful way. Night and Fog, documentary about the Holocaust, covers it so well. One of the most heart-wrenching documentaries ever. And I feel like that's the thing with a lot of this stuff is people are afraid to criticize movies that tackle hard-hitting issues like Europa Europa. It is not a good movie. It's barely even about the Holocaust. It is just it is such a disappointment to me.
Yeah.
So before we get into stuff we're excited for, let's talk about some games we've been playing lately. We haven't talked a lot about gaming. Well, disappointments you had a few in gaming, but
Yeah.
let's talk about some games we've been playing.
Okay. Um, You want me to start or you want to go?
You go for it.
Okay. So I did some stuff that I've played like not too recently, like a couple months. But my first one's gonna be one that I just played like last week, which is Batman Arkham Asylum.
So
Played the whole
that's my
game on
first one.
stream. Uh, but still one of my favorite comic book like superhero games of all time. There's a reason that it's still known as being the one to like get it right and being a template for everything else. Like Spider-Man and all the sequels, of course. And the story is well written, especially having like Paul Dini, who is like the Batman like veteran on board for it. Just absolutely well written. Just a fun overall game. The only disappointment being the final boss. That's it.
I agree with like everything that you said. The atmosphere of Arkham Asylum is second to none.
Oh my
It
god,
is
it's
one.
like if you turn that atmosphere into a burger, it would be fucking massive.
It would be. It's so good, and it's one of the best. It does. That's the thing that people don't get about video games. You don't need a massive open world for it to be a good game. Arkham Asylum is
Ubisoft.
perfectly, yes. Arkham Asylum is perfectly contained. It works so well. Every inch of that asylum is so well crafted. When you make a world smaller, take notes, game developers. When you make a world smaller, you can pack in just that much more
You
detail.
can pack in more detail, more fun stuff to find, especially with like all of the patient interviews are one of my favorite things in the game.
And
The and the Ghost of Arkham, or the Spirit of Arkham storyline as well.
it adds so much more depth to the game than you would have had without them. And
Yep.
it's just a side thing. You come across like audio logs and shit in games all the time. You're like, boring audio log. But in Batman, it's like they're being interviewed by doctors, these psychopathic criminals, and you're like,
Yeah.
man,
And
I want to hear this.
small spoilers for a game that came out in 2009, having Scarecrow's interviews be him basically trying to turn the interview around so that he's interviewing the doctor is so like that's so in character for him.
Or having Harley's be her interviews with the Joker
Yeah.
before she turned.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great storytelling. Um, I I had that one on my list as well. The second one I played was the Cosmic Shake. The Cosmic Shake was a lot of fun. It wasn't nearly as good as Battle for Bikini Bottom, but the Cosmic Shake was still a lot of fun. It was a fun platinum. The story was fun. The gameplay is fun. It's a great deal for the package. It's like $30 or $40, something like that. It's not even a full price new game. It's great. It's a fun little platformer. If you like SpongeBob, there's costumes from the entire series. There's meme costumes, all kinds of costumes that you can put on him. They even have the fucking maid outfit he wore in that one about the soup. Like they've got so many different costumes. It's such a fun little game.
Yeah.
What do you got for
It's
your
I
next one?
definitely
Oh,
do want to check that one out though, as a fan of Battle for Bikini Bottom. So
yeah, it's very good. It does feel like a very good sequel.
yeah. So for me, number two is The Witcher 3. I had to bring this one back up and play through it again after they did their whole remaster of the game. So I did most of my playthrough was back in January, but I have been going back through and doing the DLC as of recent, since I've had some time to. But it's odd that it's this high on the list for me because as it stands, the gameplay to me is very kind of boring, but I just absolutely love the story and the characters so much that that's what makes the game for me is getting to experience that story, getting to experience character moments between like Geralt and Yennefer and Geralt and Ciri, like just characters that if you've read the books, you have so much love for, and to see it like acted out in a format that isn't just a movie or a TV show, which we don't talk about the TV show here. It's not doing it right. Um, just it's so well done and I absolutely love it.
I really, really wish I had the patience to play through The Witcher and the attention
Like I
span.
said, the gameplay is what slows me down. It's the story that keeps me going.
And speaking of games that you have to have a lot of patience to play through, my next one is Fallout 4. I love Fallout 4. I recognize its flaws, and I recognize that a lot of people don't like it as much as the other two Fallout games. It is my personal favorite. I'll always love Fallout 4. I have so many fond memories of it. I could just sink dozens of hours into Fallout 4 and not even feel it. It's one of the only Bethesda games I feel no need to put mods on. I just enjoy the game, especially now that they've worked out a lot of the bugs that were present as launch. Fuck you, Bethesda. Just wanted to throw that out there. But
I
yes,
uh, I will say, having like modded the game myself, I never even modded that much. I put like 3 or 4 mods in there, and I just go, and it's
it
usually
looks
just
pretty good.
yeah. The mods I usually add are just like quality of life improvements for me. Like I add new music stations. I add better dismemberment, so like you can like shoot off enemy limbs while they're still alive and not just as a kill thing. And that just it adds something to it for me. Like being able to have a super mutant run at me, I just shoot his leg off and he just falls to the floor. It adds something.
Um, so you could go ahead with your last game because
Okay.
I know we both have the same one, our fourth spot.
Okay,
One
I
of the
actually have
greatest
a
games.
third one, or a 3 and a 4. So I'm gonna run
Oh,
through
I
this one.
oh my bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna run through this one really quick. It's the original Dishonored. Stealth games are something that I absolutely love, and like Dishonored does something so different where it's the same thing with Batman, really. The atmosphere and the world are just so well done. Don't you disrespect Diamond City, right? It's pretty
She's been
good, but I
she's
do
been
add
watching
the
me play it. She does not let me turn off Diamond City Radio while I play it. She's like, "Keep that shit on."
fair enough, but I do like to add my own music, or not my own, but like different music stations, stuff that adds more stuff from a similar genre, and I also like to
Mm.
add synthwave because synthwave while you just fight like super mutants and like raiders and stuff is fun. But Dishonored having like a hugely dense world, it does the same thing that Batman did, like I said, where it's super it's super like into the atmosphere. Like there's so much like dialogue that you can find written on like journals and text. There's stuff you can find out more about the world that you're not living in through books. Like you can find books that are talking about different places that aren't just Dunwall, where the main game takes place. Um, but then like having the whole thing on top of it of having like an occult type tie-in where you have mystical powers that there's even a faction that like hunts down people that use these, like people that use witchcraft and stuff similar to that. Um, and leading it into like fantastically written like story and then gameplay. Again, it's the only game where the disappointing part is the ending, because there's 3 different endings and they just don't play out the way that you feel like an ending would. It feels like, oh, mission over, and then it plays an end game cutscene, and that's it.
I've always wanted to play Dishonored. I've heard good things. I have the Dishonored and Prey like Bethesda collection that
Yeah.
they put out, and I really do want to play through them. And I want to play through Prey as well. I just haven't had the chance. Um, so for our final one, I can announce it, or would you like to do the honors, Keegan?
You go ahead.
Our final game that I know we both have on our list before we get to what we're excited for is, in my opinion, the best game of last year. Um, Again, in my opinion, I don't know if this is the shared opinion of Convicted Toast.
It's a lot of people's opinion, but there's a certain fan base out there that will disagree with us.
Yeah. So I will announce it then. So it sounds like you're agreeing. The shared opinion of me and Convicted Toast. The true winner of Game of the Year last year, God of War Ragnarok. What a fucking phenomenal game.
Yeah,
This
just
is where you like bamboozle me and say you have Elden Ring instead.
well, no, no. I also have God of War, but I do want to say that I still love Elden Ring. Elden Ring, I love you. That's all. Anyway,
God of War is, man, I have never felt this invested in an RPG Sony first party game ever. It literally just pulls you through, and it just everything feels so good. It feels like a giant play,
yeah,
and you're watching it like, and have the perspective, like especially the scene where it really started to feel like you're watching this big grand idea is when Kratos is talking I can't remember who he's talking to, and you see out the window, and it's Atreus, and it's, like, playing that music, and he's, like, crawling away, and then you go into Atreus's perspective.
Yeah.
It's so good, it is just God,
It's when he's
it's so
talking to
fucking
Mimir
good.
right after your first like big venture outside of Midgard.
It feels like, and they said that they were originally going to put this into 2 games, and they said that they felt that it worked better as 1 game.
Yeah.
So instead of making this a trilogy, which they so easily could have done and raked in more cash because people were going to pick them both up, they decided to tell one fucking incredible story and wrap up the Norse mythology stuff all in 1 game.
Right. I
And it
think
is
it plays off better
good.
this way.
It does. Odin, one of the best game villains ever. He's so good. He gives off such dad energy. The whole game, he gives off dad energy. Like he's just walking up. He's like, "Oh, how are you doing?" And it's like that conniving, like fucking, like true Norse
Yeah.
mythology. Like you never know when he could put a knife in your back. Like he's like excellent manipulator.
Yeah.
Just oh my god, and the design they gave him, it's so good. I'm glad they didn't go with this huge, like, god, like, I love, like, he's got a bald spot, some hair on the sides, he's
Yeah.
got his eye patch, and in that one scene, he's, like, wearing a little cap. Like,
And
he's just
they don't make him this gigantic burly guy either.
no, and in other God of War games, when you, like, fight the gods, they turn into this like, the original ones on, like,
Yeah.
PS2, PS3, they turn into these giant things. That's what I love about God of War 2018, and God of War Ragnarok. You fight big creatures, but the gods do not increase in size.
Yeah.
You fight the gods the way they are, which is so good. And God of War Ragnarok, so good, so
Right.
good. I want to get that platinum trophy so bad.
Yeah.
It's such a great game.
That's actually we both went in before God of War Ragnarok came out. We actually went back into God of War 2018,
Yep.
just busted out the platinum trophy real quick, and then it
Yep.
came out and we were both on there. But yeah, I absolutely love the game's story. I love how much we get to see Kratos grow from 2018 to Ragnarok as well. Like he's a lot more in touch with Atreus, and you see that literally in the opening. You get to see that, like it's not a major spoiler, but it starts out Kratos is just sitting in a cave, just thinking, right? And Atreus shows up. He has this deer that he just went out and hunted, and you know Kratos helps him load it up onto their sled, and Atreus turns around and Kratos just puts his arm right around him, and they just smile at each other. And just, oh, every time it's so good.
So good. It is. He really like he gets back in touch with like humanity in a
Yeah.
way,
It's
and
something that like throughout the entire franchise you see him like cutting this part of himself out until like now when he has Atreus and they've bonded, they're now, you know, they've grown.
he has a chance to bring that side of
Yeah.
him back. So good. It's so I man, I can't believe that they did it. 2018 and Ragnarok. It's just they're both so good. Um, so now to wrap some stuff up, we're gonna go over some things that are up and coming that we are excited for.
Yep. I think we've both got one that's the same on here.
Two.
We have
We
two?
have two.
Oh, that's right. We
Yes,
do have two. My list is only three. I don't know if you have anything more than me.
I have five.
You have
I have
five?
five.
Okay. I'll let you get two out and then we'll bounce back for the two that we have shared and then my one. So
I could just bang out my three that we don't have shared, and then you
okay.
could bang out your two that you've shared, and then we can go with the
Okay, that works.
So the ones that we don't have shared, mine is Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Always been a huge fan of the Mario franchise, especially the 2D platformers. Wonder looks like a great fucking reimagining of it. In reality, it's the first 2D Mario game in 11 years. And you could say that we had Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. It's a remake of the Wii U version. It's just ported to Switch. The Wii U Super Mario Bros. Came out in 2012. It's been 11 years since the last 2D Mario game, one of the biggest gaps in the franchise's history. I'm so excited for what Super Mario Bros. Wonder brings. It looks like it's trying to change a lot of stuff up. I love my Mario platformers. Very excited. My next one is Dune Part 2. If you've seen Dune, how the fuck are you not excited for Dune Part 2? It is going to be so good. It's adapting the rest of the first book. The cast is incredible. It's Denis Villeneuve from Blade Runner 2049, one of the best sci fi directors out there right now, bringing these books to life. It is going to be it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited for Dune Part 2. That is another one that could rival Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer for Best Picture, I
Yeah,
believe. Dune Part 2 could be up there. And then the other one that I'm really excited for is Saw 10. I'm not super crazy into the Saw franchise. I like the first two. I like Spiral. I don't like 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, or 8.
we don't talk
I
about
like,
Jigsaw.
yeah, that's 8. Yeah, that's 8. Um, I'm not a big fan, but 1, 2, and Spiral, pretty good. Saw 10 looks really good because it takes place between 1 and 2. It looks like it's going to try and tap into the more emotional side of John Kramer.
Yeah,
Try to understand more about why he does the things he does and why he is that person. And the tagline for the movie is "It's his most personal game yet." So to
right.
me, it feels like
I
it's
think
also
um
the longest Saw movie.
I think a big thing for the Saw movies as well is John Kramer being like he's the big reason why anybody really even listens to like anything in the Saw franchise. So I think in Saw, I think it's is it 4? It's no, it's the end of 3 when they like kill him off. That's the biggest flaw they ever have. And I think going in between 1 and 2, it leads into a moment where we can finally get back to what like people liked about Saw. And it was because John Kramer running the games is better than any of the disciples that he ever gets.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. And it being the longest film in the franchise, to me, it really feels like this is going to be a goodbye to the
Yeah,
franchise. I'm hoping they let it go with 10. 10's a good number. It'd be great if they ended it there.
I agree.
All right, what do you got for your one?
All right, so uh, it's one of the biggest things I've been waiting for a long time. It's Payday 3. It comes out next month. Finally, it's been over 10 years. Like Payday 3 or Payday 2 came out in 2012 or 2013. I don't remember exactly. Been playing it since then, and finally having a sequel, especially one that looks as good as 3 does. I heard that the like closed beta just wrapped up and everybody loved it. So I am excited to see more Payday, really.
And the fact that they're only selling it for $40,
Yeah, that's
that's a
huge.
huge
Especially
plus.
that's the big thing that I think deters a lot of people on Payday 2 is that they see like how much DLC there is. The best thing about it is if you find a friend that has all that DLC, just let them host it. They don't even need to pay for it.
Exactly. And that's it. I think Payday 3 is going to be pretty good, especially with the updated graphics
Right.
and the updated heist systems, things like that. It's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. All right.
So
So, which one do you want to discuss first?
I'll start Killers of the Flower Moon because I feel like we're both excited for Killers of the Flower Moon, but the other one we share, I feel like we're both a little bit more excited.
Yeah, I feel like we're for that one we're both very like we're
Ready.
ready.
Yeah, we're ready. Killers of the Flower Moon, the next movie by Martin Scorsese, could be one of his last. Sadly, he is much older. Apparently, it has a monster runtime, from what I've heard. I'm
Which
actually gonna
here's
check that.
while you look that up, a quick side note: stop making movies shorter just because somebody tells you to. Make it as long as you want, as long as it is entertaining and tells the story that you want.
It is 3 hours and 26 minutes long. It's Scorsese's second longest, only behind The Irishman, which is 3 hours, 29 minutes. It screened, Killers of the Flower Moon screened at Cannes a couple months ago. Around 120 people got to see it early, and all those people immediately went on Rotten Tomatoes because most of the people that go to Cannes are critics, sitting at a 97%. It is going to be very good. It is based on a true story during the 1920s, where members of the Osage Native American tribe of Oklahoma, several of them are murdered, and it's one of the first cases the FBI ever took on. And Leonardo DiCaprio is the lead. Brendan Fraser's in it. Robert De Niro, Jesse Plemons. It's just got such a great fucking cast. It's Martin Scorsese. What isn't there to be excited about?
Yeah. I'm definitely excited to see that one, especially because this might be the only Martin Scorsese movie I get to see in theaters.
Yep. I've never seen a new one in theaters. I got to see Goodfellas in theaters.
Okay.
They put it back in there. The marquee one time put it in there, and I got to see it, and it was amazing. It was amazing seeing Goodfellas
Yeah.
in the theater. Go ahead. You can have the honors of
All right.
announcing the thing that we are both the most excited for.
I think I don't think anybody's going to disagree with us. We're both very excited for Spider-Man 2. Long awaiting a sequel since 2018. Loved Miles Morales. It's gonna be fantastic getting to see two Spider-Men work together in the same game, though.
You know the plot's gonna be fucking great. You know the world's gonna be great. You know the
Yeah.
traversal's gonna be great. The side
Insomniac
quests.
puts so much care and detail into the games. I mean, we both just talked about Batman Arkham Asylum for a good like 5 minutes about, and like the amount of detail that's going to be in this game, the amount of effort put into it, it's like it's probably gonna blow the first game out of the water.
Oh yeah, I'm ready for it to blow the first game out of the water.
Yeah.
I am so excited for that. I think
Especially
it's
for the
gonna be
second one being
excellent.
as good, or the first one being as good as it is, like telling such a masterfully told story.
Yeah, it's there. The hype around Spider-Man 2 is so real. I'm so ready for it to come out October 20th. The worst thing for me because it comes out the same day as Super Mario Wonder. So
The big thing, I'll say it for Dylan since I don't know if he's here or not, but in chat I guarantee you he would be putting playable Venom or I'm out. So I don't know if
yeah, I
anybody else
think
has that sentiment, but we'll have to
playable
see.
Venom would be cool, but I'm content with Peter Parker Venom.
I'm content
Found that was fun.
with them telling a story with two Spider-Men. So
Yeah, and when they showed gameplay of Peter Parker Venom, that's all I need.
yeah.
That's perfect. That's Ultimate Spider-Man right
Yeah,
there.
I've avoided as much story stuff as possible. I watched that gameplay. It didn't give away too much. It was more about the gameplay than it was about the story. So I am absolutely just I'm ready, you know?
I am too. I need to pre-order my copy as soon as I can. I want to get a physical copy. I'm gonna have to pre-order it at a GameStop because I want it day one and I want a physical copy.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that's about everything we had to cover
Yep.
on the
Pretty much
first
covers everything
episode.
we had for our first episode.
Yeah, went just a little bit over what we had. We will be back a little bit sooner than we usually are. Our stream schedule is kind of weird. Our next stream is going to be Wednesday. Um, it's going to be over the first 12 episodes of Attack on Titan. I'm an Attack on Titan veteran. I have watched the series. I've read the last few chapters that haven't been animated yet. Keegan knows next to nothing about
I've
Attack on
seen
Titan.
3 episodes.
Yeah, we watched the first 3 already. We got to watch the next 9 before Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this thing is, I've gone through this world before and I'm revisiting it and I'm with Keegan and it's his first time going through there. So those episodes of the podcast are going to be pretty good. But we will have other episodes of the podcast
Yeah,
mixed in there.
we're
We know
gonna be
not
doing
everybody's
it separated. So you'll get one like this, where we talk about like something that we just decided to come up with, and then in between those you're gonna be getting the Attack on Titan podcast.
Yep. Our goal is to try and finish Attack on Titan by the end of November.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do want to mention we were going to be discussing spoilers on the show
yeah,
as we go, right? Okay. So
yeah.
anybody that doesn't want spoilers, maybe skip out on the Attack on Titan ones, or even if you're
Watch
inclined,
it with
watch it
us.
with us.
Yeah, watch the first 12 episodes and then come to the thing and offer some thoughts. Watch the first 12 episodes. It'll take you 3 hours. They're like 20-minute episodes. Watch the first 12, and as you watch it, we'll be there with you, and we'll be there talking about it. Um, expect new episodes of the podcast. We're gonna have 2 episodes in a 2-week time frame. We just don't have we have specific dates, but they're kind of weird, and I don't want to go over them because it's kind of complicated. Just know you'll get 2 episodes every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Also, we hope that we have less. We'll try and avoid any delays or pushbacks on the stream schedule now that we're both in a better position. So
Yeah, and we're both not dying.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Um, so yeah, this is
We,
great. Thanks for having me on here. This is a great first
of
episode.
course. And we will be putting this, if you want to listen again or recommend it to anybody, we will be putting this on YouTube. Hopefully we'll be able to get it on like Spotify and Apple Music as well for you guys. That way you can like, view it and it's not just you can view it in the car on the way to work, anything like that.
Yep.
But we will definitely catch you guys in the next one. And thank you all for watching so much. You guys have a great night.
Yes, thank you all. You've all been great.